All rise. Verbally. Witness, I asked you a question before we went briefly in private session. Could you please specify which residents of location number 1 were putting aside the Kikuyus in that location?
These were Kalenjins, the Luyas, the Turkanas, and the Luos.
And how were the Kikuyus put aside specifically? What does it mean that the Kikuyu were put aside? How did it translate it into, or in what?
These translated into these tribes I've mentioned, considering the Kikuyus as their enemies because they are not toeing or they are not following the political parties the others are following.
You also mentioned before that there were clashes between the ethnic communities in 1997. Could you please specify which ethnic communities were clashing in 1997?
The Kalenjin and the Kikuyu tribes clashed in 1997.
And going back to the 2007 electoral campaign, during that period, have you ever heard people expressing the fear of a recurrence of those clashes?
During the year 2007-2008, during the political campaigns for the elections, people were fearing the recurrence of what had happened the previous election period of 1997.
My question was, have you ever witnessed instances in which people were expressing those fears during this period of the 2007 electoral campaign?
The fears the people could be noticed in the view that most other tribes, when it comes to the election periods, they pack their belongings and go back to their motherlands. The Kikuyus do not go anywhere. They remained there. But some Luyas and some Luos packed their belongings and went back to their motherlands until the elections were over.
To what extent did you personally observe that manner of indicating the fear? Did you yourself observe that?
I observed that in that I saw people packing and going back to their home, motherlands.
Where is the motherlands for the Kikuyos?
The motherland for Kikuyus is in Central Province. Central Province is a province within Kenya, situated near Mount Kenya.
What about the Luyas and the Luos?
The Luyas' motherlands are situated in Kakamega, in the Western Province, that is, and the Luos, their motherlands are situated in Nyanza Province.
I'm just waiting for the transcripts to catch up in case we need spelling clarifications from the witness on the locations he just mentioned.
It's better to proceed and keep an eye on the transcript instead of waiting for the transcript. Sometimes these things happen. Okay.
I'm guided. Witness, there is no dispute that in the 2007 general elections, Kenyans voted on the 27 December 2007. Where were you the day Kenyans casted their vote? And please use the PIS if necessary to answer.
I was in location number 1, and I was there during 1997 voting, and I also voted.
Am I correct in understanding your answer that you voted at location number 1?
I live in location number 1. The voting centers are situated not far from location 1.
What time of the day did you vote?
I can't remember the exact time, but it was before noon. That is before afternoon, and that is before 2.
And how was the atmosphere at your polling station? The atmosphere amongst the people generally in the air?
Can you hold that question, counsel, and return to it later? Witness, you said before noon, and then you indicated a specific time. Did you say before?
2, before 2 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Witness, I asked you how was the atmosphere, the general atmosphere amongst the people and generally at the location where you voted?
The situation was tense. People looked like they were fearing some undesirable outcomes.
What do you mean by undesirable outcomes?
I mean recurrence of tribal clashes.
How many people were at the polling station when you were there?
I can't know the exact number, But the voting center had registered voters who are required to vote there were around 2,000. Yes, around 2,000. I don't know how many turned up for voting, but when I went there for voting, I could see many people queuing so that they could vote.
And what made you believe that people looked like they were fearing some undesirable outcomes? What gave you that impression?
The impression came about because some were saying I wanted to vote, go and pack my belongings, go to my motherland. Others were fearing, we have voted, we don't know the outcome. Some people could even claim when we were queuing for voting that they had heard that something would happen. These things that happen are the clashing.
And who told them to pack their belongings?
They packed their belongings on fear because previously properties were destroyed, so it was a preventive measure to pack their goods and go to their homes safely.
And who is being told and who tells these people to pack their belongings?
They do it on their own. Nobody tells them.
And after having casted your vote, what did you do?
After casting my vote, I went back to location 1 and had to stay there.
And how was the general atmosphere back at location number 1 when you returned?
The situation was calm during the 27th when we came from the voting.
There is no dispute that the electoral results in 2007 were announced on the 30th of December. How was the atmosphere between the day you voted and the day the results were announced at your location?
The situation was very tense from 27th to 30th of December. That was made to be so because many people were listening from their radios, others were watching from their TVs when the provincial reports were being made on the votes garnered.
Where were you the day the results were announced?
I was in location number 1.
And what were you doing when the results were announced?
I was watching my TV with my family, and a few members of the public had come to my house just to watch the TV, to know the results.
So am I correct in understanding that you heard the announcement on TV?
Yes, I heard it from the TV.
You recall what time of the day was it?
I can't remember.
Your Honours, I have concluded this set of questions, and I would like to address a discrete number of questions, follow-up questions that might prompt some identifying answers. So with your leave, I would like to go to private session, please.
Yes, we will do that. But before you do, witness, in relation to the last question and answer you were asked and you gave, are you able to indicate in terms of morning, noon, or evening, or night the time of day?
Evening.
Thank you. We will go to private session then.
We're in open session, Your Honours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, you said that those neighbors told you that they were fearing clashes from the majority of the inhabitants of their location. Who were they?
The majority are Nandis.
And why would the Nandis be a threat to these neighbors?
The Nandis would be a threat to the neighbors because they believe the neighbors did not vote for their party. They voted for PNU instead of voting for the Nandis party, ODM.
Did they tell you, the neighbors, did they tell you what specifically they were fearing from the Nandis?
They were fearing the houses getting burnt down or being raped.
What happened next after these neighbors came to your house? What happened next? What did you do next?
Before we answer that question, witness, the question the lawyer had asked you before, the last one that I suspended, was whether
The screams were coming from location 2.
How far is location number 2 from location number 1?
It is about 1 kilometer.
Can you describe the screams that you heard that night?
The screams I heard that night were coming from a sound of a woman. Normally, women scream when they need help. It's a scream coming from a woman. And we had to go outside my house to listen carefully. We listened. Some neighbors also came to my house. We all listened, and when I found that we were in a bigger number that could be able to go up to location 2, we decided we go to location 2 and see where the screams were coming from and what was happening.
Is there a specific term you use in Swahili to refer to screams of that nature?
Yes, in Swahili, screams of distress or screams for help, we call it nduru. Nduru.
You said that after hearing the screams, you gathered with your neighbors.
Yes, I gathered with my neighbors and we decided to go and see where the scream was originating.
You said that you waited before going up to location number 2 until you were in a bigger number. How many gathered together with you before going to location number 2?
I estimated that number to be between 10 and 15. All men.
Without mentioning names for the time being, please. What ethnicity were your neighbors?
My neighbors are the majority occupants of location 1. The majority occupants.
Which ethnicity are they?
They are Kikuyus.
How did you go from location number 1 to location number 2? Did you go on foot, vehicle, motorbike?
We went on foot.
How long did it take you?
Between 20 and 30 minutes.
And when you got to location number 2, was the location empty or did you meet anybody there?
It was during the night. It was dark. But we went towards a section where we found some images burning. So we could not meet with the people. People were in their houses. We went particularly to where the scream was coming, and some 2 houses were burning.
Can you tell us what you mean by images? Images were burning, you said. Can you tell us what those images were?
When they are far, they may look like images, but when you got near, they were houses.
Am I understanding you correctly that you saw a house burning in location number 2?
I saw 2 houses burning in location number 2.
And did you see how the houses were burning?
I even met the owners of the house who said that the houses were torched. That's how they were burning.
Again, without mentioning name, please. What ethnicity were the owners of the houses that you saw and you spoke to?
They were Kikuyus.
And how were the houses torched? How did they happen to be burning?
We could see flames coming from inside. We could also see that some of them were about to collapse after burning for a longer time.
According to the owners, who torched their houses?
The owners said that Kalenjin youths had burnt their houses.
Did you see the Kalenjin youth yourself at location number 2?
We moved around the area where the houses are situated, and a little bit far we could see some people. We tried to chase those 2 people, but we could not get them. They disappeared in the darkness.
Did you recognize them?
We could not recognize them because it was dark. We tried to chase them. They sped off. We could not even get features of how they may look like.
Was the screaming, the nduru that you referred to before, still audible when you arrived at location number 2?
It was not audible when we got there. We asked the owners of these 2 houses. They said screaming stopped immediately. The houses started getting burnt.
Did you might I go into private session with your leave, Your Honor, for 2 or 3 questions maximum? Thank you.
Private session.
We're in open session, Your Honors.
Witness, what ethnicity person number 1 was?
The Kalenjin.
What about the ethnicity of person number 2?
The same, Kalenjin.
Did you eventually learn why person number 2 was screaming?
I later came to know that person number 2 screamed to alert the arsonists to start the burning of houses.
The indiscernible was arsonists. See?
Witness, did you know who the arsonists were?
No, I did not know.
And how did you learn that the screaming by person number 2 was for the purpose to alert the arsonists to burn the houses?
This I was told by the owners of the 2 houses that were first burnt down, and later on the residents, that is the minority who live there, also told the same thing.
Apart from the 2 houses that you saw burning, did you see anything else in location number 2 that night?
There was nothing more in location 2 during that night of the 30th.
Please help the court understanding about this nduru. Can you explain to us what significance, what meanings, if more than one, these nduru screams have?
Nduru is a Swahili word. I'm not very good in Swahili, but the way I understand it, ndurus are made as signs to tell people that there is danger somewhere, and the person in that danger requires help. For example, if somebody is attacked by thieves in his house, you scream, people come for your help. If your house gets to fire and it starts burning, you scream and people come to help you. That is the way I understand it. Nduru.
Is that the only meaning that these screams have, or to your knowledge there are other meanings attached to these screams?
To my knowledge, that is what it means.
What did you do after having spoken to the owners of the houses and having chased or tried to chase the Kalenjin youth? What did you do after? Did they go?
They went to Eldoret's divisional police headquarters, situated in town.
You said the situation was very tense and that people were fearing because their houses had started being burned.
Yes. Yes.
What people expressed those fears?
These are the Kikuyus living in locations 1 and 2.
Did you speak to these people that day?
I spoke to them before they left my house. I also met others following them to the station. They said they were going to divisional headquarters of police for their safety.
Where were these other people that you met coming from? Where were they coming from?
They were coming from location 2, others from location 1.
Did they tell you what precisely was happening at location number 2 that made them leave?
They told me that the houses had started being torched and they feared for their safety.
Did they specify torched by whom?
They said the Kalenjins were torching the houses.
What about the other people that you met from location number 1? What did they tell you?
They told me for fear that in location 2 houses were getting burnt, the next would be location 2 for the houses to be burnt.
Just to clarify, you said that people at location number 1 told you that for fear that location number 2 houses were getting burned, the next would be which location specifically? Is it 1 or 2?
Might be 1.
Thank you. And after you've spoken to these persons from location 1 and 2, what did you do?
I remained in my house in location 1.
And what happened that day?
This is now 31st, is it? Now, on this day of 31st December, houses in location 2 belonging to Kikuyus were all burnt.
How do you know that all the houses in location number 2 belonging to Kikuyus were burned?
I met people from there who told me they no longer have houses and were all burnt down.
Did you stay in location number 1 or did you move to another location that day?
I stayed in location number 1 that day, and also burning of houses started that very day in location 1.
Do you recall what time of the day houses in location number 1 started burning?
It was around 11 a.m.
And how did you know that houses location number 1 were burning?
I was in location number 1, so I could see them burning.
And what did you do when you saw them burning?
Council, is there a difference between burning and getting burnt? I know it's awkward to say getting burnt, but this is witness's testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be mindful.
I say that especially mindful of the witness's last answer. So you might want to clarify that, the last answer particularly. What I mean is when the witness said he saw the houses burning, is there more for him to say than just that?
Witness, did you see how the houses came to being burning?
I came to learn that the houses were torched. That is why they were burning. They were torched. If that word is correct in English, not very good in English. The houses were torched.
Right. So you're not confused with this. It's not about the terminology more than the event, the whole transaction. Did you say you came to learn as opposed to did you actually see the houses being torched?
I saw some houses being torched. Others I was told how they were torched. So I had to believe because I saw some houses being torched.
What exactly did you see?
In one event, we were trying to burn a house. I was there, me and others. We tried to stop them from burning the houses. You cannot stop them by telling them not to burn. You had to fight. We were throwing stones while they were having the arrows, and we were throwing stones. But we overwhelmed them. They did not burn that house that day, but they burnt it the following day when we were not there.
Witness, who is they?
The Kalenjins.
How many did you see?
They were between 10 and 15.
How were they dressed?
Some were wearing red t-shirts. They had smeared some red soil. There were others wearing shukas. Shukas are, I don't know whether it is understood, but others were wearing shukas. the Kitenge type, which were also read.
How do you spell the word?
Shuka, S-H-U-K-A.
And what is that? Can you tell us?
It is a piece of cloth worn around the shoulders, going downwards. It is red in color, just like the Maasai shukas. I don't know whether.
The reference to the Maasai might do it, just like the Maasai
Yes.
mode of dressing.
Yes.
You mentioned that some were carrying arrows. Were they carrying anything else?
They were carrying arrows, rungus, and pangas.
Without mentioning names, if necessary, did you recognize any of these
No,
people?
I did not recognize any.
And how were they trying to burn the houses?
These Kalenjins who were coming to burn the houses used to sit at location 3. Location 3 has hills facing location 1. So they used to be in location 3 to observe how they would come down to location 1 and burn the houses. So they are moving from the hills downwards to where the houses were. And these were stationed at locations 5 and location 6.
We'll return to that. My question was, how were these Kalenjin youth trying to burn the houses at location number 1?
They were coming from location 3 down to location 1 and torch the houses.
What did they use to burn the houses?
They used petrol or paraffin because we were not near. What you could see is just the house burning. But the house cannot burn without using either paraffin, petrol, or anything to make it burn quicker.
How far is location number 3 from location number 1?
It is very near. Could be between 150 meters or 200 something meters. Between 100 and 300 meters, something like that. That is the distance.
you say that the Kalenjin youth could observe from location number 3 down to location number 1. Can you describe to us perhaps the view from one place to the other? Is it an obstructive view, unobstructive view? Does it have vegetation, buildings, constructions? How is it?
Location number 3, as the name indicates at the end, the hills, is above. Just like where we are seated. Here above is position, location 3. Down here is location 1. So people there can see here clearly. Understood?
For the record, the witness is referring to the upper side of the gallery. To give an example of how location number 3 and location number 1 appear.
So the indication would be that location number 3 occupied the higher ground.
That is correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
What did you do, again, when you saw the houses at location number 1 being burned?
We used to observe the Kalenjin youths coming from location 3 downwards to location 1 when they come to burn the houses. As I had said earlier, they were using the arrows, rungus and whatever they had. We used to chase them using stones, throwing stones at them. If they overpower us, we run back and they burn some houses. Then we come back and we stone them. If we overpower them, they go back. They don't burn another house.
For how long did this clash went on that day?
The clashes went on that day from morning, the time I've told you, to the evenings. When the night falls, they don't come. They go home and sleep. They come again in the morning and start the fight again.
That day, how many houses were burned in location number 1?
I don't know how many houses were burnt in location number 1 on that day. There were very many. And not only in location 1 that the houses were burnt. Also location 5, 6 were also burnt that same day.
The houses that were burned in location number 1, to whom did they belong to?
Houses burnt in location number 1 belonged to Kikuyus.
Did you eventually go at some point to location number 5?
Yes, I went there afterwards, after the burning came to an end.
But on that day that you just described, did you go eventually to location number 5?
Yes, that evening I went to location number 5 and the burning had ended because by evening they go home.
What time, if you recall, did you get to location number 5?
between 6 and 7.
Is that in the evening?
In the evening, yes.
And what did you observe in location number 5 when you arrived there?
I found that so many houses were burnt down.
Did you know who the owners of those houses were?
Yes, I came to know that the owners of the houses were Kikuyus.
Without naming individuals, did you speak to anybody when you arrived at location number 5?
Yes, I spoke to many people who were running away from that place.
And what did they tell you?
They told me that their houses have been burnt down and that they were going to stay at Divisional Police Headquarters, Eldoret.
And about the group that attacked location number 5, can you describe the size or number of that group?
These groups were 3. One on location 1, the other one on location 5, and the other one on location number 6. They were all the same number, almost the same number, between 20 and 50, or more than 50. For correction, could be between 50 and 100. Correction, please.
Thank you for the correction. How far is location number 5 from location number 1?
It could be around 500 kilometers or more.
Ms. Sago, time.
I might just clarify the last question, or rather answer from the witness, and then we can break for lunch. Witness, you just said that the distance between location number 1 and location number 5 was around 500 kilometers.
Yes.
How long did it take you to go from location number 1 to location number 2? Correction, location number 1, pardon me. How long did it take you to go from location number 1 to location number 5?
About 10 minutes.
Do you still maintain that it was 500 kilometers from location number 1 and location number 5, if it took you
Well, let's
about 10 minutes?
I have said it may be more than that. It's more than 500 kilometers.
Thank you.
we'll take a break now and come back at 2:30. Closed session.